Hi! Among other things, one of the most shocking that happened this 9/11 was patch 1.14 for Elden Ring. Mr. President, they hit the second testicle. Oh, Radon's really feeling it now. Today I want to talk about Radahn and how he went from being the great equalizer to just another boss. Oh, look how they massacred my boy. When most people start Shadow of the Erdtree, they probably would have beaten the game once. I was on New Game Plus 7. And I'm not saying that to brag or anything, I'm just giving context to how all my experience went out the fucking window when Radahn slammed his schlong in front of me and looked at me expectantly. So after buddying up with a friend of mine, we honestly just breezed through the DLC. That pig guy, that lion guy, even Mesmer got sent home with his dick between his cheeks. That centipede bit. We burned the shadow tree and think we're hot shit, right? That was pretty easy. So eventually we got to Radahn, and I feel kind of ripped off because I spent $40 and there were only like 5 bosses in like 3 areas. The fucking ass kicking we got that first time was such a humbling experience, dude. I had to have a cup of hot chocolate and look at pictures of Hyraxes for the rest of the day. Thus began a months-long journey of getting on, getting our asses kicked, crying about it, Hyraxes, rinse and repeat. Grueling, yes, but it was during this time that we realized, oh, that whole rest of the map, it's not empty. So we do Midra, we do Balerion the Dread, then go back to Radahn, and still we couldn't beat him. But we're lasting longer, and for once it's not Viagra. We're learning his moveset, when to dodge, what attacks lead into which other attacks. And sure, this sounds like standard fare for any Souls boss, but if you have played Concert Radahn, you know what I'm talking about. It's just different. This is the only game where I dodge a hail of attacks for an entire minute, just to die after doing 2 light attacks and thinking, damn, I got greedy. But still no Cigarillo, mi amigo. As good as we're getting at beating the other bosses, Radahn, this motherfucker's just built different. So whatever, we get on next time. Try, die, Hyraxes, and then we look at the map again and oh, there's more. So we go and do Finger Mama, we go and do that big-tittied sunflower from Conquer, and we go back. And this time we try parrying. And it was genuinely the meme, like we got good. And here's where something special happens. We got so good that we could get to Phase 2 reliably, just with parrying. But Phase 2... Phase 2 is a bitch. At this point, we've already beaten every other main boss in Shadow of the Erdtree, but Radahn is still untouchable. This is when I realized Concert Radahn is the great equalizer of our time. If you look at the bell curve of Elden Ring players, these are the 5% that will never get a chance in hell to even see Radahn outside of YouTube or something. This is the 90% that actually get up to the great equalizer himself and aren't able to take him down no matter how much G Fuel they're chugging. But if you have the skills, and if you keep with it, if you manage to break from the mold, then you'll truly find something special. And that's when you realize, in this moment of nirvana, you realize that Concert Radahn was never about Concert Radahn. The real Concert Radahn was the friends we made along the way. No, that's stupid. Concert Radahn is about everything else you pay $40 for. Yes, his cross attack is bullshit, and that light attack, which was pretty much a global AoE, I mean, I can't even sugarcoat it, that one's just bullshit. I mean, if you started running as soon as your cones physically saw it begin, you already missed the starting gun. But keep coming back to it. Keep trying new things, and you'll realize that actually the cross slash is one of the most consistent attacks of his to parry. And his AoE attack is... No, it's just bullshit. I can't even pretend it's not. But without Concert Radahn being as difficult as he was, I seriously would have brute forced it with rod pots or something. And I would have thought Shadow of the Erdtree was just the Lion Guy, Rolana, Mesmer, the Bud Girl, and Radahn. I would have gone thinking that the DLC was just Miyazaki phoning it in, just deciding to print money with barely any content. That sounds stupid, but okay, in my defense, can we talk about how esoteric it is to get to some of these places? I mean, for some of them, it's like, okay, you gotta go over here, and then you gotta go down this hole, but you gotta make sure to not go down this other hole right next to it, because that's a dead end. Then you gotta go in front of this tree, and you gotta, like, pee on it to get a gesture, and then you gotta do that gesture at this wall. I mean, it's inhumane. But I digress. By dumbing down Radahn, it not only diminishes the reward, but if I were to start Shadow of the Erdtree now, I would absolutely just brute force it, and miss most of the DLC. And the only reason I feel so strongly about it is because it's not just a difficulty patch, it's basically watering down one of the best bosses of the entire series. His opening gravity slam attack is completely removed. Slowed down the cross slash, which just had the biggest difficulty learning curve, honestly. That nuke attack he has in phase 2 went from spanning pretty much the entire arena to maybe just a fifth. Another really big change. He no longer immediately starts a combo after his afterimage attacks, and honestly, if you're going the parry route, this might make it a tad harder because his starting attack for the combos he does is arguably the easiest to parry, and now he's just that bit more unpredictable, and you have to watch for him to start a combo and not go into another attack. His Blood Flame attack now has a bigger window between his Sword Stab and Flame Explosion, which is nice. The first slam hitbox he does for his gravity attack is completely removed as well, which gives you plenty of recovery time in case you were expecting another attack and fucked up your dodge time. This is honestly one of the biggest changes. They also nerfed his street cred. What I'm trying to get at here is that this is a huge difficulty patch, where if you took the time to perfect them the first time around, now all that effort kind of feels a little wasted. However, it does make it more accessible to the others in the bell curve, so that is arguably a pretty good pro of this update, and I'm glad for that at least. I just feel like he's now a completely different boss, and honestly, call me crazy, I miss the old Radahn. I miss that feeling of getting repeatedly pounded without lube so many times, just to finally get that climactic feeling of overcoming such a large obstacle. And then realizing I never truly needed the KY after all. This brings me to my next point, however. With Shadow of the Erdtree, FromSoft adopted the mechanic of stat upgrades from Sekiro. In Sekiro, beating mini-bosses gave you these prayer beads, and the more you had, the more you could upgrade your health and attack power. Now, what if they went a step further and adopted the difficulty mechanic as well? In Sekiro, you could do this a couple of different ways. In New Game Plus, you could choose to give Kuro back its charm, which would make you take damage while blocking. This effectively means that you now have to perfect parry every single time, or you will eventually die. It also raised enemy health by a set amount, and as a reward you get a sweet 20% XP boost, which is honestly pretty killer. And on top of this, you could also ring the demon bell in Senpu Temple to increase all enemy stats. All enemy stats. And as a reward, you get a sweet boost to item discovery, which... yeah, not really worth it. If you're good enough to play with the bell on, I dare say you really don't need any more divine confetti. Fucking maniac. Now, imagine if we got something like this for Elden Ring. Instead of ringing a bell, may I suggest shitting on Miquella's corpse? May I suggest fucking Miquella? That way we could have the positive effect of making Consort Radahn more easily accessible, but also provide a challenge further down the line. And forget Consort Radahn, this would provide so much content by affecting every other boss as well, essentially doubling the boss checklist for completionists, and also giving pretty decent bragging rights. And if you don't want it, don't use it. Oh, hey, you know what else they could bring back from Sekiro? Boss Rush. But maybe one where you could check off what bosses you wanted to fight because there are just so many. Boss Rush is so fucking fun, man. I fucking love Sekiro. Well, that's pretty much all I have to say about the update, but I don't know, what do you think? Did you like the patch, or do you feel like a lot of your efforts are now wasted? Like the video if you agree, and if you don't, then dislike and call me a dumbass. And how do you feel about implementing more mechanics from Sekiro? Honestly, it sounds really fucking fun to me. Bye!